Welcome to part 6, guys. Let's hook right in.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm doing my favourite thing, guys, painting. And I'm going to tell you the old joke again. I got more runs than Donald Bradman. Look, it's not bad. It's an aluminium colour, or the colour's called aluminium. As you remember, I said I wanted a silvery sort of colour for the wheels. I've done the inner rim. I've got to clean up all the nuts and bolts, the studs and all of that. But you start to get an idea of the colour scheme. Yeah, it didn't come up too bad. Look, I've got one little run, but I mean, you're hardly going to notice it. But I'm just a bugger of a painter. I don't know what I can do about it. But look, it's a 70-year-old tractor. We'll go with. I think it'll look all right. I've got to. I'll try and put a heap of armour all on the tyre to shine it right up. It's a pretty old tyre, been out in the weather. But we'll shine it up as good as we can. But yeah, I'm sort of pretty happy with the colour scheme. I think it'll look all right. One Fergie rear wheel. I've just started putting a heap of that bloody tyre shine on it, but it's starting to come up. Yeah, it's sort of looking all right, it's... Yeah, I don't know. Well, there's the right-hand back wheel on, guys. Didn't come up too bad. I've gone for the wider track, as you can see. That wheel used to be right up under the guard. I've gone for the wider choice because this block is pretty steep in spots. I wanted a little bit more stability. Might be a bit wide, but and I'll probably be flat out getting the other one in this side. We'll see how we go, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, silver wheels, orange panels and black chassis. Well, the other back wheel's done. Don't know if I'm going to fit it in over there. It's pretty bloody tight because I've chosen a wider wheelbase. I don't even know if I'll get the bloody thing out. Yeah, what I'll do, I mean, it's easy enough to turn them around when I'm taking it out and swap them around. But yeah, that's cleaned up and painted. Didn't come up too bad for what it is. The centre's done. As you know, I've been doing the wiring. I'm just going to hold off for a little bit. And I'm going to concentrate on the motor now, because half of this has got to be connected to the motor. And I don't want to sort of set half of it up to find out that it's not going to work out. I've got to figure out what I want to do for an alternator. Ignition straightforward, it's one wide of the coil, one out of it. That's all pretty easy. But yeah, I think what I'll do is I've just about done everything on the back except for the 3-point links, which I mean they're just a matter of rubbing back and a bit of black paint and bolt them on, and the stabilisers that go from so on, and the 3 points from so on. They're just a matter of paint, really. Yeah, and I've got to put that bush in the back. Forgot about that too. I've got to buy that. There's not much more I can do on how it stands. It's really sort of starting to wait on the motor now. Once the motor's in, then I can do all the front suspension, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's maybe come time to start on the engine, guys. Well, we're back on 2 wheels. Yeah, 2 of the 4. Yeah, the rear end's basically done, like I said. Yeah, wheel joint. I've just got to do the 3-point links, as I said, but they've got to be painted black. I'll leave them until I'm painting black for the front components or the engine. No hurry on them. I've just got to do that bush in the back, as I said. That's easy enough. But yeah, the rear end's basically done. So we're going to move on to the engine. I mean, obviously, I can't put any of the front axle assembly on. There's all the front axle and all that down there. Can't do any of that until the motor's bolted up, because as you guys well know, the motor forms part of the chassis. So we've got to get this done. So I guess that's the next thing. And once that's done, then I can put the front end on and we're well on the way to finishing. But as I say, it'll help with the wiring as well. So let's get stuck into the engine. Beautiful day down here in East Gippsland. Lovely spring day. Engine, what do we got here? I think they're about a a 1.8 litre engine, I think, give or take. What do we know? It runs. Doesn't run too bad. Occasionally, I'm almost certain one of the rockers sticks. I'm pretty sure it's one of those two. Anyway, the rocker gear's got to all come off and be serviced and checked. This will be a full rebuild, well, the kit, everything. Yeah, so what else do we know? It gets water in the oil. The first time I changed the oil in it and went to do the filter, there wasn't even an element in the cartridge. But yeah, no, it runs and all that, behaves itself, doesn't leak any oil at this stage. I don't want it to leak after we're finished. We're going to clean it up and dress it up and make it nice, and like that little plate at the back, we might make that out of aluminium and polish it, you know, just to dress it a bit. I want to put an up pipe on it, as you know, so I've got to get the bend that comes out of there. I serviced the carby when I first got it, so that should be all right. It's missing the pipe from out of there into the rocker cover. I might be able to get one. I think I know where I can get one. Yeah, other than that, it looks like a pretty straightforward sort of a rebuild. The alternator bracket will want work as well. I don't know what I'm going to do for an alternator yet. Easy enough to do. I'm just probably too bloody cheap to buy one, but I have to because the thing's not charging. So let's start hooking into the motor. Carby's off. Fuel line was already disconnected, as was the choke. The only thing I had to disconnect was the governor linkage. It's just one pin, and two nuts, and that comes off quite easily. You got, as I say, you got to love these things. They're just so simple. Interesting setup on the water pump here, guys. That appears to be a cotter pin, like the crank on a bloody push bike. That's what it appears to be. And that's how I'm going to treat it. No, we'll see what happens. And that nut, I gather, helps retain that flange. I don't know. This is a bit of an unusual setup. I haven't come across this. Pump feels all right, actually. It's quite smooth. There's no wobble in it, so I'd say the pump's serviceable. Distributor, coil, that sort of thing are off, guys. Pretty straightforward. I don't think you need to see how to do that. I think, that is the oil pump drive as well. I think they're slightly offset. There is a video on timing these. Here we go. Look, that comes out. And looking at that, yeah, if the rest of the motor looks like this, then yeah, it's got that claggy on. Look at that shit. Look, it's yeah, I think we're going to get all sorts of surprises here. As I say, it runs. The dizzy's probably all right. It just needs a damn good. You can see that pin's offset. Just needs a damn good clean up and all of that. I also believe that, yeah, you see on the distributor there, you can just make it out. I'm cleaned up, mate. It says a 52, so that also says it's a 1952. I think that's how it works anyway. Water pump. 2 nuts and 1 long bolt in the top, being that one. So yeah, she's about 3 inches long. Goes right through into the head by the looks of it. Yeah, pretty simple. The intake and exhaust manifolds are off. As you can see, they're integral. They're both part of the same thing. So yeah, just sort of half a dozen screws, nuts and bolts, whatever, and they come off easy enough. Water pump housing's off, guys, and yeah, looking at that, I would say we're going to have that's elastic. I'd say she's going to be a bit grotty inside, but you never know. It's yeah, whoever in there's elastic on this bloody thing, it's amazing. Crankshaft pulley comes off easy, guys. Just undo the big nut. You got to undo the lock tab first. It's got a little lock tab on it. So undo that, or bend it over, I should say. And that basically just comes straight out. It's not pressed or anything. So yeah, that came out pretty easy. Timing covers off, guys. About a dozen bolts going right round. Oh, there's a slinger there, so watch that. That'll go in behind the seal just there like that. Yeah, so Yeah, keep going. Timing marks, guys. Not that it matters at this stage we're pulling apart, but more for my own reference. On the crank pulley, you'll see a little line there, and on the cam, you'll see a line there. We're firing on number 1. Both our valves are loose, so that should be firing number 1. This is more for my own reference, as I say. The cam and chain set doesn't look bad at this stage, but we'll pull it apart and have a closer inspection. They're the counterweights for the governor. All of this stuff's probably all right. It may not have been down before. It's a bit hard to see. We should be all right, I think. Rocker gear, guys. Very straightforward. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll let that whole assembly come up, so you can take the rocker shaft out and the push rods. Look, a lot of people say mark your push rods, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keep them in that order. I've been told that from day one, but I don't know how necessarily true it is, especially if you're going to be, say if you replace the lifters, then if they're seated in those old lifters, then they're not in the new ones, so what's the point? It just depends on what you're going to do. I don't think, I'll probably have to end up changing lifters or something, I don't know yet, so I'm not going to bother putting them in order. There is merit to it. Some people say yes, some say no. Looking at the nuts, quite a few of them are quite rounded. That one, look at the adjustment on that, that's miles out. For some reason, the screw length might be different, so people have been at this before over the years. It is a 1952 model, so she's bloody, 71 years old, so a few people have probably had a go at it in that time. Just looking at these valves, guys, the stems are in various states of repair. They appear to be quite well worn, as you can see. Have a look here, that one's actually got a bit of a taper on it, whereas that one hasn't. That one's got a bit of a taper, that one hasn't. That appears to be really well worn. I've got a funny feeling I may be up for some valve work somehow. I was going to do, at worst I'm going to seat them all in and lap them and all of that, but I just get the funny feeling one or two might need replacing. I may even just do the whole set and be done with it. It just depends on what either way it's getting a full rebuild, so you'd be bloody stupid not to pay a bit of attention to the valves. Cylinder heads off, guys. Nothing out of the ordinary. Bit of gunk in the water jackets and that. As you can see, most of them are sort of a bit blocked. This will need a real good clean out, but the sleeves and everything are coming out. It's a full rebuild. Bit oily in a couple of the cylinders, which suggests she may have been using a drop of oil. Once again, the cylinders and pistons and liners will be all new. Beautiful copper head gasket. It's I did that as I was removing it. I caught it on one of the studs, but that doesn't matter, it's getting replaced. Looks like oil. The two and three, or 3 and 2, 2 and 3 are a little bit cleaner. Nothing there I wouldn't have expected, to be honest with you. But yeah, the head's got to be cleaned right up, checked right out, as does everything. It's a full rebuild, so it's anything's no good, it's going to be getting fixed. Well, pretty typical. We turned it over upside down and half the oil and half the water ran out of it. Pretty normal. We'll take the pan off now. That was a bit of luck. Where I've bolted the engine up on the stand, I've missed the pan, which was good. It was all arse. That wasn't planned. So there's a little trap that you might want to fucking look out for. Looks like a bunch of 1/2 inches, whatever they are, holding this down. So, let's get the rattle gun going and get it off and have a look. One sump. Look at the guns in that, look. Delightful. I don't know if there's any metal bits. Can't feel any yet. Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that. I think a bit of cleaning's in order somehow. It's yeah, that's that. Can't see anything obvious. What do we got in the crankcase? 1, 2, only 3 bearing, or 3 main crank, 3 bearing crank. A few bits and pieces here I'm not familiar with, but we'll just keep, I mean, that's obviously an oil pump, but yeah, we'll keep going. I can't see any horrors. Cam chain's off, guys. That's pretty bloody straightforward. Yeah, if I undo those 3, the cam will come out. Crank gear hasn't come off yet. I give it a little bit of a pry, but it didn't move. May need a bit of heat or a puller or something. Cam just pulls straight out, guys. Just be very careful as you're pulling it out. If you're going to reuse your bearings, just watch the lobes and that don't bang into the bearings. They're probably soft metal, whatever they are, and probably not real hard. So, yeah, just take a little bit of care on that on removing. We're just about ready to pull the pistons. Very important to mark the big ends. Someone's already beaten me to it. See, they've got 1, 1, 4, 4, and this one's got 3, 3, 2, 2. That's so number 1, you know which conrod goes where, and number 2, which way the caps go and the rods go. So, to me, no, we should be right to pull them. I'll just double check a few things, but we should be all right. And it looks like the caps are fairly self-explanatory. I'll put a little arrow on that centre cap just so I know which way it goes. That's forward, but that's different to that, so they're going to be self-explanatory. Just that one needs to go the right way. As I say, guys, just a little precaution. Just got a couple of letter stamps, just stamped a V and a 1. So that sort of looks like an arrow, and it's pointing to the front of the motor. Well, old mate showed up again. Female king parrot. I'll put a little bit of seed for her, sunflower seed. They love it. And the boyfriend's over here. There he is just there. I know the light's a bit funny. He wants to come over. He's a bit worried about me. I wouldn't touch him. But lovely. Look at the beautiful red coat. But yeah, if he doesn't hurry up, she's going to have the bloody lot. She's going through that. Oh, here we go. Look, he's braved up. Look, here we go. Husband and wife having a bit of a feed. Well, guys, one Tea20 engine tore down. I didn't show you the crank and the pistons and that, and the liners. It's stuff you've seen a million times. It's, you know, it's just repeating over stuff that's been done and done and done. Everything sort of, there is differences. I mean, look at that oil control ring on that. Yeah, look at that one. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 and 4 appear to have different control rings, oil control rings, to 2 and 3. I wonder if she's been down before. I've got to do a lot more inspecting yet, but those oil control rings clearly look different. Look at the rib in that. And that's had water in that in it. I think that was the cylinder where the water was getting into the oil. And that's number 1, I think that is. That's a completely different oil control ring. So she may have been down before. A lot of these components aren't bad. I haven't sort of had a good look at the liners yet, but it doesn't matter because I'm buying the complete kit. I'm not going to muck about with second-hand parts and all of that and measuring and cleaning and all of that. I'll bloody get the right stuff and, you know, half of that should fit. Looking there, I mean, she's a bit gunky inside, a bit gungy. It's all just rust. Gonna need a damn good clean up. I've got to pull some plugs out of the side of this oil gallery too so I can get in there to clean it. But yeah, she's, you know, I mean, look, it's well worn, but it's not buggered, you know what I mean? Like if you look at that's the front main. Hang on, I'll just get a rag and wipe it. They're worn and I may have to get an oversize on it. I don't know, but wouldn't want to put them back. It's, you can sort of see there, she's a bit worn. Yeah, but anyway, they'll be getting replaced, but yeah, everything else is all, you know, and I think I might looking at the valves, they were a bit dicky as you saw earlier. I may even put a new set of valves and that through it, but I'll get those, as I say, I'll get those couple of oil gallery plugs out along there, and then we'll have a bit of a clean up and start doing some assessment. But yeah, I want a properly built motor. Yeah, we'll keep going. Point of reference, dowel pins and long stud, 1, 2, 3 from there. Started cleaning up the block for the old Fergie guys. Just going back, cleaning up all the gasket surfaces, that sort of thing. Bit of an identifying number there. I know it's upside down, SC30073E. Don't know what that is. A couple of other little marks on it. I'm sure the Harry Ferguson faithful will know what all that means. I've got the wheel of death ready to start taking some of this paint off. A lot more cleaning to do yet. Haven't seen anything serious in the block. Done a lot of cleaning though. As I say, I've cleaned out the bit hard to see, a lot of the water jackets and that, and the faces where the sleeves will sit down. All of this has got to be spotless. I don't want any water leaks into the crankcase or anything like that, but yeah, we're going to clean it right up and give it a nice lick of black paint. Well guys, the block's had a good scrubbing. I've buffed most of the paint off. There's a couple of little spots, but you'll never see it. All the threads have been ran, everything's been cleaned. We'll give it a lick of paint. It'll just be gloss black, same as the chassis. And it'll have, once the paint's dry, it'll have a final cleaning. And then we can start reassembling. I got all my, what do we got here? The engine kit. We got valves and springs, and there we got a set of springs there, valves, oil filters, all the gaskets, liners, everything in here, complete kit, seals, the whole bloody lot. So that was really good service from a mob in Head's Tractor Service, I think it was. Really good service, really fast. Though I ordered that, I think they're in Queensland or New South or Wagga, wherever it is. It was here the next day, so very fast service. Yeah, so we've masked it all off. Yeah, and looking at the weather outside, it's beautiful today, about 26, 27. We'll give her a lick of black tomorrow and it'll be starting to look like something. Paint on the block's done. I didn't go crazy at the back here. You don't see any of this. That's just a bit of overspray, so I'm not worried about in there. The sides and that come up nice, and no runs. I don't do it too often, but yeah, come up all right. And I think I've got the outline and the timing gears and all that right, because a lot of this I think you see. If not, I can touch it up with a rattle can and yeah, masked off those few areas, you know, but oil gallery there and that, and come up all right. So the next stage is we'll be starting to think about reassembly, but we have a nice clean engine block to work with. Well guys, we'll start on the crankshaft. I haven't done the liners yet, but I think I can do the crank first. Yeah, make sure all your surfaces are spotless, of course. No sharp edges, nothing. Sit your bearings in. Just check the little tab, or it'll only go one way if they don't line up. You'll never get the bloody thing together. So yeah, they're all right. Clean all your caps, they've all got to be spotless. Yeah, with this one, and the crank's got to be clean. I think before we drop the crank in, we've actually got to put the rear main seal, sort of set it roughly in place. So yeah, we'll see how we go. It looks pretty straightforward. Then of course you've got your end float shims, which are in there. and they locate in the centre bearing. So, and they have to go a certain way too, but I'll show you that. End float shims, guys. You'll see 2 have got tabs on them and 2 haven't. The 2 with the tabs actually go in the bearing, the top bearing cap, like so. You'll also notice there's notches in the shim itself. They go towards the crank. In other words, that surface there and there. I'm pretty sure that's for lubrication. If you put it the other way, yeah, that's not going to lubricate as well, and you'll probably end up with issues. So they've got to go that way. Same as the lower ones, which sit in that slot there. What we'll do is we'll put some grease there, and that will hold them in place while we're dropping the crankshaft in. Put your bearing shells in your top caps. Once again, you can see the little groove just there. And my end float shims, that's the way they go there. You can see the notch. 3 caps or 3 bearing main, and the caps are all different. So that's your front one, that's your centre, that's your rear with the gap for the rear main seal. So what we're going to do now is put some engine assembly lube, whatever this brand is, Clevite. We're going to put a heap of that on the shells in there, and the crank, and those, and we'll just nip the bolts down to start with. Crankshaft is in, guys, and rear main is in place. Probably just wants to be popped in a little bit more. It does have a retainer on it. We're still quite free in the rotation. I mean, it's firm, but it's not tight. We've got to check our end float now. I'm not quite sure what that is, but we're going to find out. Well, if I'm reading our book correctly, guys, petrol engine, crankshaft end float, centre journal, clearance new, 4th thou to 11th thou. I'm getting a very tight 11, so we're just within spec, if I'm reading that correctly. To measure crank end float, you get a screwdriver and you just put it in between there and just lever the crank one way or the other, and you'll feel a little bit of slack. Say, for example, if you push the crank all the way that way, that'll tighten up that shim and open up the gap there, and that's where you measure down in between the crank and the shim, and that will give you your clearance. But that crank feels beautiful. That feels really good. So we've got to put these seals in, of course, the felts. I don't know with them yet. I'm going to see about them. But no, the crank looks good. Well, we're going to start on these liners. As you can see in there, the surfaces are spotless, meaning there. They have to be perfectly clean or none of this will seal. So we've got new copper gaskets, which are these ones. So they go in, and we'll use a bit of sealing compound, which is that, at the base of them, and a bit of oil on the lower part of the sleeve. So yeah, we'll see how we go. Well, they basically fell in, guys, and a light tap just to sit them home. Yeah, they sitting fairly flush. I know you're supposed to measure all the heights and all of that, but look, I think we'll be all right. What the hell are you supposed to do about it if it's wrong? So yeah, we'll see how we go. But no, they'll be fine, and crankshaft still turns, so that's a plus. Well, something might be wrong, I don't know. Pardon me, the liners went in really easy. With a slight tap, you know, for the last sort of 5 millimetres or so, just tapped down lightly and they went in. Got them clamped off so they can't fall out when I put the pistons in. Obviously, I'll have to move things like that a little bit to get the piston in. But that way I can rotate it and won't lose the liners and risk damaging the copper gaskets. So that looks all right. We might, we're going to start now on We're going to start to strip these pistons off the old Conrods and start fitting the new ones and ringing them up and all of that sort of thing. Put the new bearings, so on and so on. Yeah, only really have to clean the Conrods and the bolts. The rest all gets replaced, so that's good. But just noting how that split lines up with the Conrod in that configuration, not the other way around. I think they're all the same. Yep, there's another one there. Yeah, they're all the same. So basically with your bolts pointing up on the bench, the split has to go in line with that. And I'm pretty sure the split faces the camshaft, which is that side. So, because that's your cam there. Well, that's where your lifters go. So yeah, let's start pulling these apart and getting dirty and see what happens. Well, our pardon me, I'm just dying here. Our Conrods, well, our pistons have all been removed, pins removed, bushings removed out of the Conrods. All the parts have been cleaned up. I'm taking a punt that they're all straight. There was no noises in the motor or anything like that, so I think we'd be pretty right. We're just going to have a little go at tapping one of these Conrod bushing, gudgeon pin bushings in. We've got to watch there's an oil hole in there, as you can see. That goes right through the Conrod and picks up at the crank. That's oil to feed the gudgeon pin. There's a hole in that. What we want to do is we need to line them up or else it won't get any oil and it will seize. Put a little red dot there, which is in line with the oil hole, and then scribe a little line down the bushing. So as you're driving at home, you can make sure that it's going straight and the holes are going to line up. If they don't, you have to tap it out and do it again, or some such thing. Or maybe if you had a real long drill bit, you might be able to drill it, but I haven't got a drill bit like that. So yeah, we'll just tap it in nice and gentle with a soft hammer. These may need reaming or not. I don't know what sort of a fit they are with the pin, but we're going to find out. Well, let's see how we go. Well, guys, pardon me, I'm dying. I pushed the new bushings into the Conrods. Went in fine. Oil holes line up. You can't really see through. Yeah, but they're a bit undersized for the new pins. So I've got to get them reamed out about a millimetre. But there's a guy up the road who does that sort of stuff. Just knocking the rest of the stuff out of the head. So the valves are out there all getting replaced. Springs are getting replaced. Guides are getting replaced. So the head's stripped. What I'll do is I'll get the head machined. Get the valves cut, the C3 cut, and the guides put in and so on, and get the head tidied up. Got new valves in it for it, as I said. And a bit hard to see there with that glare, sorry. Lovely day here today. So that's coming along, but yeah, that sort of means put the pistons at a bit of a stop. But I've got plenty of other stuff that can be cleaned up. Point of reference, even though you'd find out about it pretty quick, looks like an oil gallery plug in the back of the cylinder head. I'd say, yeah, that comes up from the main hole. Yeah, you'd find out pretty quick if you didn't put it in. This is the front part of the sump, or forms up part of the sump, over the front of the main bearing cap, which is that one, and sits thusly. There's two new corks in that, which I've had to just trim slightly. I'll put some sealer on them and slide that in and screw it in with those two. Just watch the corks don't catch in there. It's a tight fit, but yeah, it should tap into place all right and seal up. And then, as I say, the two screws there to seal it. Well, that tapped into place fairly easy, a little bit tight on the corks. Yeah, just make sure it's sitting in flush and square because there will be a gasket that goes across there. And trim off your cork to suit. Tighten your screws down, we should be all right. Yeah, that's nice and easy. On the rear bearing cap, obviously you've got the seal rear main retainer, which I've fitted. In those two slots there is a felt, which looks like these. Now, I'm presuming that you just stuff as much of them in there as you can get and trim off any excess. Now, it says in the book to coat these in shellac. Well, I ain't got any of that. I'm not even 100% sure what it is. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil on them so they swell a bit or whatever, and then just sort of try and stuff as much of them in as I can. They're pretty long. They go down to about there. So they're the full length of that cap. And that's probably, looking at it, probably so much. So I'll try and compress it and push it in. Just got to find something suitable to push it with. I'm thinking just a small Phillips head screwdriver at this stage. Well, I just used a bit of WD-40 to lube that. Just pushed it right in, took the whole lot. As you can see, it's sort of, pretty long. Comparing it to the block, you can sort of see how long that is, but it's all stuffed in, so I'm presuming it's right. When I put the pan on, I'll just put a bit of sealer over that and hope to Christ that's it. Well, guys, you know me, I chop and change. Just cleaning up the housing for the oil filter cartridge or canister or whatever. Just clean up the mating surfaces, so on and so on. I pulled the pressure valve out. Also on top, you can see there's a little brass tag, whatever, just saying, from Techelmit, and telling you what type element. I just don't know if you can read that or not. Just clean up. I couldn't get, that's a ball on a spring in there, a one-way valve. I couldn't get that out. Didn't try too hard. Just sort of cleaned around it, so hopefully that's all right. Just got to clean up them. The actual main cartridge, I'll powder coat black. I'll just leave that how it is. Just cleaned that right up. Bit of sandblasting, bit of this, bit of that, and just cleaning up the bits now. And I didn't change the adjustment. As you can see, that's an adjustment there for that ball and spring. The tension on that, and that'll probably change oil pressure. I'll have a look in the book and see what it should be, but I won't change it at this point. Well, the housing's cleaned up, guys. Excuse me, just clean up the nuts and bolts. I put a new copper washer in there, you can probably see that. Just needs a gasket, and that can be bolted on. I've just got to do the canister like I say, but that's starting to, that'll look pretty smart.
See you in part 7, guys.